Alright, hello people, what is up? I know I've done this before, but I'm gonna do it proper. What am I gonna do? So yeah, I've done this. Don't worry about that. That's what I messed up because I found out that apparently you can't resave things. So we're gonna use this preset they have, and then we're gonna save over this thing, and we're gonna do 2 characters again.
Uh-huh.
And you're gonna see here, multitudes of times.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
This first speed run is going to be the main Aetheryte Speedrun, which you can see there. It's not really saying main Aetheryte. I have not actually edited that. Oh, don't worry about that. I didn't really plan on editing that. Nah, I'm going ultras. So, once we've done all that, we're able to get things all set up proper. The speedrun does not start until we skip the very first cutscene, because that is when we gain control. But other than that, it's pretty straightforward. This is just, we're gonna grab every single Aetheryte. You can see our speedrun timer there. You'll see our general pathing. When I first did this, I was doing horrible pathing, and it made me cringe a little bit when I was rewatching the stream, but you know what? Don't worry about it. I'm here to fix it. Alright, so 3, 2, 1, start. Make sure I choose mouse and keyboard. Talk to this person. This is not a skippable cutscene. But if you look at the timers, you could see my fastest, well, not my fastest time, but the ideal time I could get based off of how many times I've run this is about 38 minutes. Alright, I have removed everything that is needed. I've removed everything that's not needed, is what I mean. First skippable cutscene. Done. And second skippable cutscene done. If you got good loading times, that does help with a speed run, but not overly. And here's the third and final skippable cutscene. Yeah, sometimes we'll get golden, sometimes won't. That's just kind of a timing with sprint. I don't have that down pat yet. I'm gonna hit M and scroll out to this distance, just so you could roughly, no, this distance, I think. I'll remember what the actual distance is for these. Yeah, our hotbar is exactly how we're gonna need it. We're gonna have 1 be on sprint, like this, and 2 will be our return, because we use it once in the mainline speedrun. The reason why I start in Gridania is because for pathing, it's easier to start in Gridania than it is to start elsewhere, because in that run, I think you end up having to do like 2 returns, and that's not really ideal. Nope. Fuck. Sometimes you get stuck on a rock. Unfortunately, I did get stuck there, so much for time saving. Regardless, I'm probably not going to have the best times here. That was like a really poor pathing there on my end. We're in teleport. We're too broke for teleport, so it's not using the run. Simple as that. Yeah, we cut through this tree. It's a little bit harder to see, but you kind of just look at your mini-map sometimes. And next is we have to take this bridge up here. And then cut straight to East Shroud. There are 3 scary parts of this run. We will be coming up to one of them here soon. But the one that's coming up first is not really that scary. So I'm not too worried about it. As for class choices, if we could start in Ulda, it would be nice to start as a frickin' Marauder. But unfortunately, because of just poor pathing in that regard, I choose Lancer because your other choices are a healer, which is pretty squishy, or a ranged DPS, which is pretty squishy. Lancer is also pretty squishy. But of all the squish, it's probably the least squish. Just because Lancers get that benefit of like, oh, you're a melee DPS, you're gonna be in range, you'll have at least some armor to live. Not a lot, at least some. But in the grand scheme of things, it's not really gonna matter too terribly much. There is one particular enemy that does matter, but that's much later on, so I'll discuss that when we get there. However, as you can see, the speedrun is just simply collecting all the Aetheryte crystals. The reason there are 2 is because you have to do main story to be able to get to Lenocia Isle, get on and off the Lenocia Isle. Otherwise, you're locked between all these areas. If you want to speedrun getting all the Aetherytes in a game, that's basically speedrunning the entire game. Which we're not here for. We're doing ARR mainland, and oh, that's a gold time, I just realized. Nice. We're just doing the mainland, and then I will set up a video for the Lenocia Isle, and these will all go up on the same day. Because my brain has said I must do this now, so I must do this. Hence why I am here now doing a recording, which has been a very long time since I have done one ever. So, if you want to be safe, you can set your home point here. That's kind of just your failsafe of like, hey, I don't want to frick up and die. So I'm going to do that because it takes no time and well, it does take a little bit of time. But it takes very little time, but also saves you so much time in a whole speedrun if you do have an accident here. Because this is the 3rd scariest area because of trees. Followed by Morbles. I never had a problem with Morbles until one run, where I just got aggroed by one, and it just said, nah, I'm gonna consume your soul. I mean, I didn't actually do that. Yeah. There are 3 aggro types. As you can see, there's the symbols, meaning aggressive or non-aggressive. If they're aggressive, it's the red ones, which are those trees. And the trees are sight-based enemies, meaning if they see us, they'll attack us, because they're aggressive. There's also proximity-based, where if you're near it, they'll attack you. And then there's sound-based, where if they hear you, they'll attack you. And yes, that's an aggro thing, where if you RP lock yourself around the enemy, they will not aggro you because they cannot hear you when you are walking. That Marble is in a horrible position. So far, going through those trees is probably your safest bet. Or well, it's been my safest bet so far. Every single time I've gone through this area. So I don't have to worry about the marbles. I just did not like that positioning because it's a close proximity, so it's not super far. Which is beneficial to know. Knowing your aggro types will help you through the run. For sure. Sometimes you do have to get some path corrections. But otherwise, it's not too bad. Oddly enough, it's actually slightly better to miss the stairs there. Also, hello, A rank. I'm gonna go completely ignore you because I don't trust you. Yeah. And now we are on our way already out of the shroud, despite the fact we're missing one Aetheryte crystal, and into Thanlin. Hi, Condor. Hello, Condor number 2. And yes, that will happen sometimes. Sign up for speedruns. If you are doing this, when you get aggro, do not sprint. Sprint before you get aggro because you'll get 20 seconds of sprint rather than 10, because in combat, it's cut in half. Saves you a bit of time, not like overly, but it saves you a bit of time. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to recover the splits that I'm having here just because I had a really good run for some of the splits at one point. There's only so much you could do. Yeah, if you sprint before that aggro happens, you'll still keep it. It's just only if you use it after the aggro thing happens. Another thing I will give note is to be wary of fates. Since you're level 2 the entire run, if any fate other than in the super lower areas, good English me, other than in the lower leveled areas, best to avoid them otherwise. Because they will punish you if you get too close to them. And that is not fun for a speedrun because if you die in this in the speedrun, it's not great. I mean, you could technically die in a particular spot because that's the one time we use return. And that could help. That's like the only time it would be okay to die. But it's easier to use return than to go run out, find an enemy, get yourself killed, return, revive, and then go through the entire animation. It's faster to use return. Just because of animations. Also, yes, we do break our legs for this one. I'm sure most people do that anyways, to be honest. It's the easiest way to get this. Also, you do have to do a short jump there. It didn't really look like I did a jump, but yeah, you have to jump that or else you kind of get stuck on geometry. Right now, the timer in the bottom left is showing you the best time. showing you the best times of all runs. Ugh, these frogs. So there's a reason why I'm kind of complaining about the frogs, right? That is not a thing I need right now. The reason why I was complaining about these frogs is they're time killers. They won't kill you because they initiate with sticky tongue, which is a combination of a stun and a pull. They're not fun to deal with because they grab you most of the time. They're not in the correct spots for you to get their attention, especially as a lancer when you only have one melee attack. If you were an archer, yeah, you could probably do that, but it's not recommended. I was just not expecting to have 2 A ranks on my pathing, to be frankly honest. But I guess people are just doing some hunts right now. That's that one done. So now we get to go to Ul'dah. Which unfortunately, with it being foggy, it's a little bit harder to see, so you can't necessarily angle yourself, which is why I have this map open. The map just tells me whether or not I am on the correct path or not, because usually it's easy to just beeline it. There will be some geometry like rocks that are in the way, especially in Ul'dah. No, not Ul'dah, the town. In the region of the Black Shroud. No. Hit the Thanlin. Black Shroud is trees. My brain totally didn't have a random breakout there. Don't worry about it. And then there will be 2 more things I need to do once I'm done this. Not this, but English. I am thinking too ahead of myself right now. Alright, we're gonna hit stop right when we get attuned. Set this as a home point because this is exceedingly important. That home point right there is probably one of your most important home points. It's the only required home point you need in this entire speedrun. The quarry mill is a safety net. And the one that we attune to afterwards is also another safety net. And that safety net is big. It's a very big safety net. Because right now you won't be able to see them yet. But as you can see, we're going straight to Little Alamigo and Forgotten Springs. So the issue with Forgotten Springs is it's a dead end. Southern Thanlin itself is a dead end. There's nothing to loop in. And that's why you need return at least once because of that. Your other dead end is Coerthis' Aetheryte Crystal. Because it's a long distance off. And it takes so much time to go from there and then back. Hence why I have my pathing. Why are there so many hunts out? Either way, I'm getting distracted. Because of those being dead ends and nothing being a perfect end, you can get everything mostly in a loop except for those 2 places. It's why you're gonna want to either have your run hopefully end in Southern Thanlin, which means if you start in Ul'dah, it's not going to be ideal, or you end in Coerthis. Because of the pathing that I have set, I don't know how you're supposed to start in Ul'dah without having to loop back onto places a couple of times. Hence why I have decided that I figured out that Gridania is the best place to start for this particular instance for a speedrun. When we start in Lenosha, you'll see what I do there. But no, Ulda's start is not nice. It's a slower run in general to get all the Aetheryte crystals. But because both Gridania and Ulda share the map, and Lenosha is off to itself until you get enough story where you can actually leave the place, i.e. you have to unlock airships. Which is basically like a bunch of quests away, which takes some time. And speedruns are all about not that. They are not about taking time, but the other thing I like doing is not having to do like all of the ARR speedrun, all of the ARR crystals, just because it's a fun challenge at level 2. It makes you have to think about aggro range and test your knowledge on enemies fairly well, plus test your knowledge on navigating maps without story. Oh, so there's that person again. Probably confusing the frick out of him. But either way, we're gonna hug this wall. Because this is the second scariest part of the game, of the speedrun, because of those thaumaturges. Casters and any ranged attackers, range attacking mobs, will, without hesitation, end your run. So right now we have a thaumaturge in the way right there, so we're gonna actually cut in front of his turtle, hit sprint. And we're gonna drop down onto these rocks and go this way instead now. Because, due to checking pathing, this way is just very safe. You actively don't have to worry about aggro by cutting past this area. But yeah, going between the Lancer and the Thaumaturge is scary because you're hoping that if you get aggro, it's a Lancer, not the Thaumaturge. Any kind of magical attack will end your life from those guys. From a Lancer, if you accidentally get too close to them and they get a single hit on you, you're also dead. So it's a lot of just knowing the aggro ranges. They're all sight-based, thankfully. So you could just run behind them, and it helps. Yeah. So if you didn't have return, your ideal thing would be just attack a Dune Angler right outside the gate and get yourself killed. They will most likely one-shot you just because of the type of enemy that they are. I haven't done a speedrun test for killing yourself in this area. You have return. You might as well use it. Because our next spot is going to Horizon. And that's the only reason why this setting your home here is important. Gets you to Western Thailand real fast. Also, side note there that I just noticed, do not hit sprint while mid-air because you don't get that speed boost at the beginning. It's like shaving off milliseconds, but at the same time, who knows? If you're trying to get the best time, it's useful. If you're not, don't worry about it. This is just for showing that this challenge exists or speedrun exists. Because I got bored, and yes, that's going to be my description. The speedrun exists because I got bored. But regardless, this is what will get your run done. Well, this will get your run done, of course it will. This will after Western Thailand, this is the only time that we end up backtracking. Well, we backtrack on 2 maps. We have to go back through Central Thailand in order to get to Northern Thailand. Which at this point, you're probably going to see where the scariest area of the speedrun is at this point. Just because of the fact that we're going through Northern Thailand after all this. You can get up here. There we go. I know that much. It saves you so much time to go up those rocks. It's just you have to know the exact point to get it. Most of the time I had been going around the rocks. And then I found out you can kind of just get yourself perfectly on top of it, which lets you save like a couple of seconds. Not much, but shaving off any second is useful. It would be fast if we had a bird ourselves, but as I said, that's continuing story. And if you do any kind of story, it's gonna slow down your speedrun regardless. Because the bird does help, yes, with speed, but it's such a ways out that it won't be worth it. And choco porters will only take you to places you've already been, if I recall correctly. And despite the slight mess up, I somehow still got a gold split on that. Now we just start heading down this way. Well, up this way. Because we gotta go through Northern Thailand. And through the hardest area in base ARR. Yeah. I'm not too worried about Northern Thailand as an area as a whole whenever I do these runs. Just because you can avoid the majority of things with ease. The only problem I have is when fates are popping. Because there is a fate that if it's up and none of the NPCs are in it, there's a good chance you're going to get aggro and or get yourself hurt. Well, not hurt, but dead. But we'll worry about that if it's up. If it's not up, cool. Fates don't necessarily dictate your run. The thing that mostly does dictate it is casters or ranged enemies. Those are the things that are out of your control that dictate it. In your control is your own your pathing and knowing and your knowledge. Honestly, I thought I was gonna miss that jump. Now we attune to this one. So there is a fate in the way already. You can see it on the words of Camp Blue Fog. But if I recall, this one is Peists attacking a group. Yeah, you can see it already. There, no, not Peists, Airmen. I just remember that Peist in the middle of it always being a butt whenever doing that fate. But no, the Airmen's because they're only on that path, we could just outright avoid them. And then the thing we have to watch for is that basilisk, really, but not really. I was looking for a Dolben that's always here in a Fate, because I'm so used to the Fate that pops around the area I just left. I am exceedingly used to that Fate almost always being there as a constant. Hence, why I was more looking for Dublin. So this one this is your last set home of a speedrun, because it hurts to be reset from there. Because this is the scariest part of a run. Not this area we're running through right now, but going through the section in Mordana. There's a couple of enemies to look out for. And when we get there, I will point them out. There's a signifier right there, and that's a signifier that will... Pathing. That signifier will end your run. If all else fails, hug walls. Hug walls and or pay attention to their aggro, plus listening to their footsteps. As weird as that sounds, that sounds so weird. As weird as that sounds, listening to their footsteps tells you whether or not they're moving, and if they're moving, that means if they're in an unideal position. They might have changed that unideal position to a much more ideal position. So we're gonna hug this. Oh, he's on the way out. He's on the way out. So there's a signifier right there. That is the worst signifier. And the guy that just went through the door, that's the wanderer that you basically blindly have to get around. But he is slow, and because we caught him on a frame where he's transitioning to the area we're going to, we can actually outright avoid all that, plus that signifier. We're going to get some aggro in this section, just because of the fact that there's an Equius right there and a robot. Are we not? Just because the Equius just decided to walk over there? Apparently. Well, we're going to run. I am shocked. I've almost never gone through this place without aggro. There's a lair quest. We don't have to worry about it. And am I really gonna get through this entire scary? Oh my goodness! I was not expecting to get through all that without aggro. Also, I don't care about these bud puppies. The benefit about them is they immediately open up with an AoE you could easily move out of, so I'm not worried about them. The thing I am worried about are these Nixes. Their placements are terrifying sometimes. Ugh. Why are these? This is the worst setup of a frogs I've seen. Like, I've never seen him set up like this. Fuck. This one right here that I'm about to try and run around, that is the worst of all the frogs, because depending on how it's facing, you're almost always guaranteed to be smacked by it. As a Dragoon, if it doesn't crit, you don't die. But that's not a chance most people are willing to take. But no, the fact that I got through there with like only aggroing a mud puppy and then just having horrible placements of frogs, I don't think that's too bad. And now we're basically completely safe. There's nothing left that would hurt our run unless there's a fate. Now that I've been reminded about a fate, which means I just shaved off like a whole almost 4 seconds from that. Jeebus. But as you can tell, I've been doing a lot of these runs, trying to shave down the time as much as I physically could. Because like I say, this probably doesn't exist. As I said, I kind of made it because I was bored. So these snow wolves, they're site-based. You could just run behind them, not really worry about it. That's like the only wolf you really have to worry about. Everything else is just a cakewalk. It's just like the mud puppies in Mordana, the mud puppies here do the same thing, but because we take the higher path right here, we don't have to worry about it. And yes, you're seeing we're going to Fallgourd Float before we go to Camp Dragonhead. It's easier to just loop in and loop back to the North Shroud to grab this last node than it is to go grab Camp Dragonhead and then do that. So off we pop. Holding WL in these transition areas gives you a bit of a head start. This is the fate I'm talking about. The one that, like, you spawn in and it's on your face. And there's nothing you can do about it. It sucks. Hence why, when I heard aggro, I'm like, well, frick. I didn't hear aggro, I heard the fate. You have like a split second of like iframes whenever you load into areas because the game won't kill you while you're loading. So you could take advantage of that for giving yourself like a single frame of reaction time. It's not nice. But again, the game doesn't expect you to be level 2 doing this. But here we are. Also make sure we're close enough to the freaking crystal. Because that's an important thing. So my pathing did get a little janked. Just because of freaking buttholes. But we're running to our last and final Aetheryte crystal. And we're done the run. For timers, I will put it down in the description for others to give it a try. There will be 2 of them. I'll just put it in both of them, both videos. And then that will allow us to allow other people to give this a try and prove that my times are shit. I want people to prove that I'm not good at speedrunning and say, nah, you got this all wrong. Here's a better pathing. Because for all I know, I could be wrong. I really could be wrong. But there's no really easy way to tell, since I don't know anyone else who's given this a try. And the thing that kind of sparked it was when I saw a charity run from a group where people were donating to Blindfold and people had to see how many Aetheryte crystals they could get in a certain amount of time, which was very much a struggle when they had to go to other places rather than the crystals that they've been trying to go to. And that's the only thing that really sparked this idea. So now this exists. And if people do it, cool. I want to see people absolutely destroy my times with pathing that I didn't even think of actually would be there. Because I don't know everything about the game. I just know maps really well. And that's like the only thing that's helping me through this entire thing. Either way, we are calling time in 3, 2, 1, time. Surprisingly, I got a gold. Okay. But yeah, that is the speed run. And yeah, you can see like the arrow pop up every time. So I do playtime, and then I do a screenshot. And that is what allows them to see times. I have no idea how I'm supposed to prove things, but you know, it's fine. Regardless, once I get the other thing, I will have the next thing up for you guys. Either way, I will talk to you all guys later. Bye bye!